Welcome to Racing Roots with Hamm.
If you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest
From the racing world with their stories, their paths,
their racing roots. Sponsored by Jersey Cape Yachts. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and their YouTube channel. Also on jerseycapeyachts.com. Check out my website, DHammiam.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you'll be notified every time we go live.
Now here's our host, David Hamm.
And welcome everyone to Racing Roots with Hamm. And today my guest is John Dodson, who is I was going to try to memorize your VP of Business Alliance and NASCAR at NASCAR and NASCAR Universal Technical Institute. Why don't you tell us there, John? Sorry.
Yep, been there 19 years now.
Yes.
In February, it was 19 years at NASCAR Technical Institute and Universal Technical Institute.
It's hard to believe it's been that long already.
It sure is. It happened quick. And good thing is, I didn't really want to leave racing, and I never really have left racing.
Right.
We are the NASCAR Technical Institute.
Yes, that's exactly right. So you can't technically say, like I say, I retired from NASCAR, but you can't say that. You probably never will, because I don't ever see you retiring from anything.
No.
Pretty much.
It took me a year to get over to think they could race without me at the track. You know, I stood in front of the TV, and for the first year I got off the road. You know, you're 30-something, late 30s, or not. I wasn't late 30s. I think 33 when I could quit changing tires at 32.
Yeah.
All used up.
1933. No, I'm just kidding. So, yeah, I was going to actually introduce you and tell your different credentials and everything, but I mean, I don't have 15 minutes to go into the show and do all that. So we're just going to talk about your story and let you do that. But I'm also joined, of course, by Phil Cavalli over there. And let's see if I can get the Phil cam here. Howdy, Phil. And we got
Evening.
there you go. And we got Scott Burns and Brad Borders are over here as well. I got y'all on this camera right here, by the way. So they're with Purple Heart Homes, and we'll have them step in here in just a little bit.
Yay.
And talk a little bit about that. And then Tracy's over here. She's off camera, so y'all don't tell her that you see her. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining us tonight. And it looks like we got Chad up in Ohio, Don Clark here in Statesville, and Rachel in Charlotte, and the Troutman family is also here in Statesville. So we'll have some questions segment coming up here in just a little bit, but we're going to start off with John telling his story. So you come up from the little small town there, Mooresville, that's ever expanding as more people come in to go to the NASCAR Technical Institute. And so,
Kept moving me out. I moved out. I started there in Mooresville, moved.
Yeah, you
out
have
a few
moved.
ways. I grew up in a small town called Rural Hall, North Carolina. I'm not sure if anybody knows where Rural Hall is, but
I've heard of it.
It's about 8 miles east of Walnut Cove and 10 miles south of Pinnacle. If that tells you.
Oh, well, now, I don't know. We have a Vashti and Love Valley here, so if a lot of people haven't heard of it.
Just north of Winston-Salem, really, small town Rural Hall, and grew up there with me and my dad was a racer, raced at Bowman Gray Stadium back in the day and all over the dirt tracks of North Carolina and the South. You know, he's one of the pioneers of NASCAR. I think he started in 53, so when did NASCAR start? 48, 47?
Yeah, right.
So Daddy, 51 or 2 or 3 right in there when he started racing little semi-stocks or something like that.
Yeah. What was that? I saw a picture you had on your Twitter. Was it Riverside? It was right Atlanta. No,
it was
America?
Elkhart Lake, Indiana.
Okay.
He was that was on NASCAR.com too. It was a picture of him leading the field in a 56 Chevrolet, and running second was Gwen Staley.
How about
that? I remember him talking about running Elkhart Lake. That's when NASCAR is one of the very earliest ventures of going out to a road course.
Okay.
So that was a long ways to go to flat tow your car to Indiana and Elkhart Lake. He also ran Soldier Field in a convertible.
Oh.
Soldier Field, Chicago, and that was quite unique. He said,
"That's cool. I didn't realize." Well, and my aunt was a Staley, and I believe her family was in the racing. as well. So
You remember North Wilkesboro was the Gwen Staley 400.
Okay, so yes, he was. That's why she's always talking about Wilkesboro, and so
Bring it back, right, John? You can pull some strings. Yeah, well, you can pull strings on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Phil. I'm liking that too.
You got him in the house. Talk to him.
Yeah, we really need to work on that. Get Wilkesboro back in.
I miss that place.
I've always said Dale Jr. should buy that, shouldn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. He could do something with it, too.
Exactly.
I mean, have a Saturday night weekly series there.
Absolutely.
It's a place that Josh Berry could win every race.
Yeah, yeah.
But, I mean, I really believe if you can run Bowman Gray, the Madhouse.
Sure.
Best little short track in America, if you ask me. It's wrestling with cars.
Yeah. And it's packed every weekend, too.
Yeah, and you could run Friday nights at Wilkesboro and Bowman Gray on Saturday nights. And I believe there's a want for it.
Yeah, I was at Hickory the other night, and I'm going to Caraway this weekend.
Nice.
My
first race I ever drove was at Caraway. It was in a rental car, rent a race, or you could rent a race car for $100. So I was 16 years old, and I'll get into my history a little bit. But me and Kyle kind of grew up together because Daddy drove a convertible for Lee Petty in the 50s.
Okay.
So Dad drove the Petty Engineer and Oldsmobile, and Lee drove the hardtop. Well, then Barry and Bruce worked at Petty's before I got there. But Kyle and I kind of grew up around the racetrack playing football and infield and things like that. So the first race I ever drove in was when Kyle started racing. So he was running Caraway every Saturday night. Okay. So I rented this race car, and I didn't have a helmet, didn't have goggles, didn't have gloves. I was buckled in the car. Kyle pulls off the track of the race he was in. He pulls off the track, jumps out of the car, runs over to me, hands his helmet, goggles, and gloves. I put his sweaty helmet on, his goggles and all that, and went out and drove my first race.
Oh, that's very cool.
and I got spun out on the first lap, and the next day at the shop, Richard walks in. He said, "John drives a lot like Kyle."
Oh, yeah. Yeah, man, that would have been cool. So did he have the big Phil Cavalli hair like he had
No,
later on?
At that time he did, and that's before mine and your time on the Mellow Yellow car and the Coors Light Sabco days. But no, at that time he had the afro.
Remember
but his helmet was sweaty. I remember it slipped around on my head when I went to turn.
Yeah, I was saying. You remember the pictures of him that looked like Yanni with his hair flowing down, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of that, that's why
like a guru.
I wore my Coors and my Pontiac on the sleeve.
Throwback, David.
Kendall.
I got the same shirts. I wore the same shirts. We worked together.
Now, do you still have yours?
I don't represent tonight, so I'm going to do this right here. I saw these Racing Roots Hamm stickers, so I'm just going to. I'll do me that right there. Is that on the camera?
So you need to wear that when you get to the school tomorrow morning. Here, I'm going to put that one on there. Yeah, that too. Yeah. That's good. You're going to make a fashion statement now.
That's it.
Everybody's going to start doing that.
I don't know if I have that shirt. I have some of my uniforms. I got them all in bins. Matter of fact, I got the other day I went over to the memory lane and got my Richard Childress CRC Chemicals was one of his earliest sponsors. Yeah. And I changed tires in the Daytona 500 for him. I was 17 years old, still a senior in high school, and went to Daytona, missed 11 days of school.
Oh, yeah. How'd that go?
Yeah, it did not go good. It went good for me, except when I got back and the guidance counselor said, if you miss one more day, one more second of a class, you won't get a diploma. So I couldn't go on the road anymore. And
that's how he said it.
That's how he said it, a little harsher than that. But he knew we were a racing family. He knew, he knew what our future was. And he actually did everything he could to make sure. And after I graduated from high school, I went to work for Maurice Petty in the Petties. But back to my point is, I went over and got that uniform, had been in memory lane, and I had it hanging in my office. And Richard Childress come by the school the other day and brought some of his leaders because they were looking for talent. They want to hire a bunch of our graduates that fit the bill. And I showed him that uniform, and he said, "We got to take a picture of this." So I got a picture of me and Richard in my office, and he wanted to get that posted on social media. So it was pretty cool.
I saw a picture of you sitting in your office, and I was like, I recognize that. And I was like, oh yeah, that's his office because you have all your memorabilia and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot in there.
So that leads me thinking about, does NASCAR, so you do stuff with the Hall of Fame as well?
The North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame. Yeah, I'm on that board of directors with Don Miller, who started all that. Ryan Newman's on the board. Bobby Allison's on the board.
Now, is the Kenny Thompson GT40 there?
I think it is.
I think so too.
And they rotate vehicles in there. And I was in there a couple days ago, but it's pretty cool. If you hadn't been there, that's a must see in Mooresville.
And there's a plaque hanging in there that has the 1989 championship team that you were a part of. Yes, but I'm jumping ahead. We're going to go back to your beginning. I know we are, so that's why I say I want to go through your story, your path, your route. So
do it.
Yes.
So we grew up in Rural Hall, North Carolina. My dad was one of the pioneers. He ran at Bowman Gray Stadium. He ran all over the Southeast. He ran on the beaches at Daytona. In 1955, he ran in the sportsman race there. If you go in the North Turn Grill at Daytona, you'll see Daddy's name on the wall. Finished 14th in 55.
Yeah, all right.
And, he just was a pioneer in racing. He worked for Vulcan Materials Company, so they said, look, you got 6, 7 kids at the time, and ended up 8 children in our family. And he said they wanted a commitment from him to either race or, work for Vulcan Materials, which was Graham's Quarry at the time. So he kind of had to make a choice. That's where he made the living. It was hard to make a living racing then. So we followed the path. He drove for the Petties in 57. He drove a convertible for Lee, previously driven by Ralph Earnhardt. So I used to tell Dale Earnhardt that, when he'd start picking on you or whatever, I'd say, don't forget they fired your daddy and they hired our daddy.
Yeah, that's right.
That wore him out.
Yes.
But he liked us a lot. We all were, kind of family. But then Barry and Bruce are my older brothers, Bruce Dodson, Barry Dodson. And they worked at the Petties. Started out with Richard Childress because he was in Winston. So we'd go down there and volunteer. And then I got out of school every day and I would drive down to Richard Childress' shop in my 75 Vega.
Yeah.
And clean up, clean parts, whatever I could do, clean the bathrooms, load tires, dismount tires, whatever, and begging Richard to give me a job, because it's all I wanted to do was race. And you really got to have this passion for it and not think about, I want to race so I can have a uniform or be on camera. I wanted to travel and race and compete,
Yeah.
And he just couldn't pay me, and finally I said, if you can give me $80 a week, I think I can get by on that. He said, well, no, we can talk about that. So he did give me $80 a week, and I could make the payments on my Vega, and I was fine, living at home and living my dream. So started there, as I said, went to Daytona, changed tires for him in the 500, and it was 79. That was when Kel and Donnie had the big wreck.
Oh, yeah, Daytona.
Yeah, and we pitted beside Kel.
Okay.
We're pitting beside them, Junior Johnson at the time. So I weighed 150 pounds. It's all I could do to get the tire on the car. I had to use my head and everything to get the tire on the car.
Yeah.
And then I had to take a few years from not changing tires. That was in high school. Then at that time, you needed stagger guys and all that. So I would go to the racetrack on the weekends and then learn my skill in a fab shop in Rural Hall. I worked for a mechanical contractor, learning how to fabricate and weld and things like that. So then I went to Petty's for a while and worked in the engine room for Maurice, and he had called me because we all grew up down there playing with, Tim Petty and Kyle, and all of us were buddies playing football, and he knew I wanted to race, but I wasn't an engine guy like yourself. I just didn't have the passion. I thought it was finite.
That's what I was going to ask you. What did you do in the engine shop?
Grinding blocks, things like that. I did it about a year, but nothing, no assembly work, things like that. Helped them on the dynos, stuff like that. Built oil pumps. I built a lot of oil pumps, but I didn't find a passion for engines. I always wanted, like Barry was a fabricator. He put on bodies and things like that. To me, that was art. You could create. We had 3 templates is all you had, so you could really create on a car, and that's what I wanted to do.
Well, I was saying at least you were still kind of doing like fabricating on the engine stuff too. If you're grinding blocks and stuff, you're changing the form.
I remember that Kyle wanted to work, and he said he put Kyle to grinding blocks, and I'm sitting over here grinding a block, and Kyle's grinding one. He didn't last a half a day.
I was going to say,
and we never saw him anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say that was going to be my observation. I do not see Kyle doing that type of thing or manual labor in general.
He's awesome, but he's like me. His attention span doesn't go far. He just didn't want to grind blocks.
Yeah, I know whenever I started working at Savco, and I would go, and he was over there in the weight. He come in to work out, but he did more talking than he did working out. So then I go over there and I meet him, and he gives me his cassette tape, and talking about singing and that kind of stuff. But I don't know that I ever saw him pick up a weight. He was supposed he was just told he needed to come work out. So by Felix Sabatis.
You got to hit the weight room.
When I was changing, I changed tires on the Melliella car. I didn't on the 42 car, on the Coors Light car. But Felix made us work out. He had a dietitian come in and feed us. Remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
So I remember one day we were in the workout room, and nobody worked out too hard because you did it during lunch. You had to go back to work.
Yeah.
Robin Pemberton walked in, and he had 2 springs, rear springs, 150, taped to his feet, and he walks in the workout room with those springs.
Oh, my gosh.
He said, all right, we're going to do the high jump, boys, you know. We cut
That's
up
crazy.
a lot.
Yeah, I know whenever this was after you got off the road, then I come along after Mike Ford had left and all that stuff. And then it started out.
I roomed with Mike Ford. We roomed together.
Yeah, how about that? It started out where we would all be in the weight room at the beginning of the year, but then it started dwindling down. And then it was like I was the only one, and we had Hank Osdenmoor was the trainer at the time.
Yep.
And so it'd be an hour and a half for lunch, though.
Yeah, that was good, and you got free food.
So what led you into going back? You worked there. Then what was your next job in racing?
Well, what had happened is Barry had left the Petties. He worked there for a long time, but he went with MC Anderson down in Savannah. So Buddy Baker drove the car, then Benny Parsons, then Kel Yarborough, the 27 car, then Tim Richmond, then Rusty Wallace. All those years. So when I left the Petties, Barry was already down there, and they wanted me to do the stagger. So back then, you had to measure every tire. You had to put them in sets. You know, you put them in sets now, but you had to measure stagger.
So
you know what a stagger is?
Yeah, it was. Well, you can explain it to our listeners, but was that a separate? Because we just had a tire guy when I started going, and he did all that. But
but you only needed your tire guy at the track on the weekends.
Yeah.
So they didn't have a spot for me. I didn't have the skills yet. I was learning the skills working in a mechanical contracting shop, a welding, fabricating. But I would drive to Cale's house. When Cale was driving the car, I would drive to Florence on Thursday night, or we had Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, fly with Cale to wherever the race was in his little plane, 6-seater, because they were in Savannah, and fly back and drive home. And Monday morning, I would work, work at the shop up there in Rural Hall, where I'm from. So I would go and do the stagger. So I did that for Benny Parsons. I just helped out a little around, where I could drive to around here. I remember the first time I ever got paid for being at the racetrack was David Ift. We were chaining the car to the trailer, so that tells you I was just a kid.
Yeah.
And I was laying on the track at Martinsville, chaining the car, and he slipped $20 in my pocket. And he said, "Can you come to North Wilkesboro next week?"
Oh, nice.
Boy, I thought I was somebody. I got paid racing,
Yeah.
And my Vega could make that's 4 tanks of gas in a Vega back then.
That's right.
So I was the stagger guy. I did that for Kel Yarborough. So I remember going, I'd fly to Daytona or drive down to Daytona and work every single race. That's when you went in on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday a lot of times. So I would just go and work the weekends. And Tim Brewer was a crew chief then and paid me. And, I made some money there, then money working at home, and just traveled to the races only. And then eventually, when that team got bought by Raymond Beadle and brought up to Charlotte, it was Blue Max Racing then. So Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, and Kel Yarborough drove for MC. When it got bought and moved to Charlotte with Beadle, I think Tim Brewer and Harold Elliott started there. Well, we went over with Kel Yarborough on the Hardy's car, and we won the Daytona 500 in a backup car.
Okay.
And Waddell Wilson. So we won the 500.
Where was that shop?
That shop was the old Robert Yates shop down there on 85, right beside the Wholesome Bread Company.
Okay.
Great shop to work in. Smelled like bread all day.
Yes, right. Yes. So that's the when my dad lived right down there in the 50s, whatever, and they built that plant.
Not far from the original racetrack. The first NASCAR race was right on over there.
That too. Yeah. And I've said this before, but there was a picture of him on top of that hill of the mound of dirt when they were building that plant.
Yep.
So he grew up right in that area. And
it was Rainier's shop to start. It was Harry Rainier run his cars out of there, and Waddell Wilson and all that. Yeah. So, but then, and Cale went to drive Waddell, and then eventually Robert Yates bought that. He went there to build engines and bought that race team for Davey to run in.
Well, explain right quick to our listeners what the stagger is, what your job is doing stagger.
The stagger is each tire is different. Your biggest tire you want on your car is your right front tire. So it might measure 110 inches around, and then your left front tire would be smaller, and that would make the car turn. So I guess it's like a paper cup. If you lay it down and you roll the paper cup, it turns really quick on the bottom side. You know, so that's what stagger is. And then, so that helped the front of the car turn. And in the rear tires, there might be a 1/2 inch, 1/4 inch, or equal distance. So if you wanted to make the car looser, you opened up the stagger in the back end, which means you got a bigger right rear, a smaller left rear, a right, And then if you wanted to tighten it up, you brought that number together. So typically in the front of the car, you'd have an 1.5 inch stagger, and in the back, you'd have a 1/2 inch. And then you could kind of control it from there. So we won a lot of races, you know, staggering.
So if y'all watch a lot of go-kart racing, you'll see a lot of that different size tires
on modified races
open
too.
wheels,
Yeah, more offset.
And then if you want to go back to some of the NASCAR history back in the day when they won some races with, what was it, the right side tires were on the left or something like that.
Yeah.
That's another story.
We won Wilkesboro one time with, I better not tell that.
Oh, that's okay. We've had stories in here, right, Phil? We've had some stories from, and it's like, okay, the statute of limitations is way past gone.
Yeah, but he's still pretty active
still
at the
active.
top level.
Yes.
You know,
if a few more people pass away, I can really tell some stories.
Yes, I understand. That's good, though.
Might be me, though. I better be careful with that.
Yeah.
So anyway, the stagger deal, I worked there, and finally Tim Brewer hired me on the Old Milwaukee with we left over there with Waddell, Barry and Ed Thrapp and Pete Peters and all, and went back to work with Tim Brewer and Harold Elliott. That's the same team we had in Savannah.
I'll see.
Got everybody back together at Blue Max, and then we really kind of started our run. We got Tim Richmond driving in the Old Milwaukee car. Barry later became crew chief. I started changing tires. You know, me and Barry on the team all those years. So in that 27 car, Buddy Baker, Benny Parsons, Kel Yarborough, Tim Richmond, and Rusty Wallace. We won the 680 and 90 with Rusty.
That's cool. I just put that picture on the screen so everybody can see that right there. And I was trying to pick.
Which one is that one?
This is the one that has, I'm assuming, is that you up there beside Tim?
Yeah, Tim Richmond, that's a Pocono. We won Pocono.
Okay.
And Tim's like, get up here on the car, you know. So we're on the roof, and I'm wearing jeans. Look, I'm wearing jeans in that.
Yeah.
Picture. And he says, hold that flag up. So I had to put I said, I can't do it all, you know. And we didn't lose any parties. We didn't win every race, but we didn't lose any parties.
That's right.
With Richmond.
That's one I'm very envious anytime I have someone in here that worked with, see you, Jason, with Tim Richmond.
Man.
And because that had to be like super cool.
It was super cool. I put him in the car every week, so I got more of an intimate type, relationship, talking and things to do. I'll never forget one time we were leading Riverside and they had a rain delay, and it's so big it could be raining somewhere and the sun's shining like Daytona here.
Sure.
So that stopped him on the back stretch. Said, John, go to the car, take Tim something to drink, take some rags, and people don't know it, but he'd smoke a cigarette once in a while.
Oh, really?
So bring me a cigarette.
Okay.
So I ran over there and got him a cigarette, and I said, man, I'll get some. It was an oil leak. There was oil all over the car, just all over the inside of the car, up the wall, grease, not bad enough to. And I said, I'll get a towel and wipe that up. I remember he blew some smoke out, and he goes, it's not bothering me.
Oh, yeah.
And that was him right there. It didn't bother him.
That's cool.
He just knew one thing. And he couldn't change a spark plug. He couldn't tell you nothing.
Okay.
Yeah, is it tight or loose? I don't know. It's just sliding on me, or something like that. And Kel was the same way. Kel just, you get it close, and he said, I'll tighten up my gloves tomorrow. We'll be all right.
So the movie Days of Thunder is kind of like he rides in the motorcycle.
That's a lot like Tim Richmond.
Okay.
Where's the cameras? Give me my car. Where's the girls?
But he backed it up.
Sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
first one to ever bring a motor home to the racetrack, and he was just.
Really?
They were like, everybody made fun of him and things like, now go around the racetrack.
Hollywood all the way.
Everybody's got a motor home and a golf cart, but he was one of the first ones, his mom and dad, to camp in the infield and just stay in. The thing is, we'd come in as a crew and go out to the bus, and we'd all hang out, and his mom would make banana pudding for us, and
Yeah, sure.
But he was not like the driver. He was like one of the guys.
Yeah.
But then he also took that level of being a star, and he loved it. He was like Elvis of NASCAR.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
He loved it. He was fit for it, and he backed it up.
And I was at the beach one time hanging out, just watching TV, and I saw a game show come on, and Tim Richmond was on the game show, and he just said, I'm a race car driver. Didn't say, it says, my name's Tim Richmond. Didn't say anything about him racing for NASCAR or any of that stuff. Anybody I ever asked that to or mentioned that to don't remember that. I have had one person in here who remembered it.
Was it the dating game?
It was, you know.
I don't think the dating, I think it had gone by then, but he did the dating game, if you want.
Yeah,
Played the
he
dating
did.
game.
Sure.
Right,
He wanted to be a star.
He was.
You know, he was like Cam Newton of NASCAR in a way. He's like, I'm an entertainer. I'm a race car driver, but I'm also, he was a show off.
Yeah. Sure.
You know, and we kind of, but it also kind of led to the demise of our team and Tim going over to Hendrick, because we felt like he was doing more of that than, I'll just say the team guys. We got a little bit tired of it. You know, we late for qualifying, and then he goes out and runs a qualifying lap, but we got to start in the rear, good enough to sit on the pole. And that's the kind of things that bothered you as a team, you know.
Yeah.
And he finally said, I'll just go over to Hendrick. He went to Hendrick. We got Rusty Wallace. We won our 5th race out, and so did Tim. So he started winning races, and we started winning when we got Rusty. We won a few with Richmond, but nothing like we did with Rusty. I mean, when we got Rusty, 5 years to a championship, 4 years, I think, to a championship. And, you know, we just felt like we were, you know, kind of more engaged.
So I think what I'm going to do here is have Phil ask some of these questions, because I'm sure there's plenty. And I'm going to find the video. I was actually going to download it and pop it on here, but I'm going to find the video from 1989 All-Star Race and put it on.
That's when I got bit. My thumb got bit.
Yeah, and I want you to tell the story
we won
about
the fight
that.
in the race.
Oh, yeah, there you go. So
well, that's what I was wondering is you were talking about watching Cale and them in the first race you'd been to. Did that, you know...
That's the first race I changed tires in. I was in the infield playing football with Kyle at Wilkesboro, and we were 10 and 11 years old.
Well, yeah,
You know?
but
And we only watched the last 5 laps.
10 years later, you guys are involved in the Rumble there after the Winston. Did that inspire you, you know? Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Rusty hit in '89 Winston, same year we won the championship. So coming off of 4, Rusty hit Darrell Waltrip. And, you know, it's arguable, but when you look back now.
The Winston. It's
for $200,000.
Exactly.
Now you make that for 10th.
Yeah.
So anyway, he did hit him. He knocked him through the grass in the infield. We won the race. And as Rusty was coming down pit road when he was going to go into Victory Lane, Sandy Jones, he worked over there. He was a crew chief at one time, but he was on the Tide team. He kicked the side of the car. So here goes Todd Parrott. He was my tire carrier. Later, championship crew chief with Dale Jarrett. So Todd carried my tire, you know, indexed my tire. So Todd elbows Sandy. He was running behind the car, and he sees him kick the car. So then he just throws an elbow. So he turns loose. Sandy turns, and then it all ensues, you know. I just turn and look, and there's Todd and Sandy. So I go to get Sandy off of Todd. He's got him pushed up against the trailer, and you know, so I reach to get him and pull him away. When I do, he bites my thumb. I got 2 pairs of gloves on, and back then there was no mechanics wear. I went to the sporting goods store and bought baseball gloves.
Right.
So I had on 2 pairs of gloves. He bit my thumb, and he bit it. He wouldn't let go, and when I was trying to get my thumb out of his mouth, his head was jerking back and forth. Looked like I was hitting him. But I wasn't. He had my thumb in his mouth. So the next thing I know, their body man, the guy that painted cars, he gets me in a headlock. So he pulls me away. My thumb comes out of his mouth. He pulls me down out of the way, and he's got me in a headlock. Well, I'm hot and sweaty. My headpiece comes off, splits both my ears right there. Split them. They were both bleeding a little bit right there. But my headset comes off, and he looks up at me, and where'd he go? And he's holding my ear headset, and I'm over here. When he looks up, he had on some shades. I was already right here. And I tore into him, and I hit him, and he went down, and we looked back up. All that was left was that rod that was hanging on his ear, and the rest of his glasses were gone.
So I'm showing it now on the screen.
And I tore into him, and then I think a 7-foot guard picked me up and just walked away with me. He finally I said, I'm good. But it's like baseball. You just don't it's your team.
So
I didn't mean anything about it. And next day we laughed about it. I went over to Sandy. I said, biting? There's no biting in racing. What are you biting me for?
Yeah.
All right, so here it is on the screen, so our viewers can see what's going on there. And there's some of the melee there in the pit area.
It happened quick. I was giving Bruton Smith a earful in Victory Lane, and I didn't even know who Bruton Smith was at the time. No.
And so there's DW explaining.
He was saying, Rusty, I hope you choke on that money.
Yeah.
That's what he said.
Well, the next day, Raymond Beadle brought us all $2,000 apiece cash. And he told me, he said, that's for winning the race, not to fight.
Oh, nice.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's your bail money.
All right. How about that?
So I made a couple grand. That was big then, though, $2,000
Sure.
for little bonus.
32 years ago.
Yeah.
There it is. Look at the mayhem.
Yeah.
But that year, we unloaded that car, 88 and 89. Besides Daytona and Talladega, we always struggled there just with horsepower cars, But we felt like we could win every week. We just felt
did
like
Rusty win the 600 that year, or was it 90?
90.
90, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Won it with Benny Parsons in 80 in the Monte Carlo.
Yeah.
Beat Darrell Waltrip then, too,
Oh, yeah. So
in the Melling Pumper.
how about that? Beating old Jaws, which, I mean, I was a Darrell Waltrip fan back in the day. But looking back, it's like, so did
And
you
then
work?
Barry became his crew chief
Okay.
on the Auto.
Yeah, the Western Auto.
Western Auto car,
Yep.
Bradley and Barry worked over there, and Darrell's a good one. He's a good man. Always been very good and kind to our family.
Sure. And I learned a lot about the those years with the 27 car and whatever. From I worked with Brad Thrower for a couple years, and I worked with John. Let's see, Callis.
John Callis, yeah, and then he worked at Penske's for a long time.
Yeah.
He went with Rusty. So when Rusty went with Penske's, we didn't. We sort of separated off, and then after that, we had a Team 3 racing, and Mickey Gibbs, and then we went over to Whitcomb's and run that a year, and that's when I just did my own thing and went over with Robin Pemberton and over to Melly Yellow Car, and we sat on the pole in Daytona 500. First month, I was 2 months there, built a nice car and thought we was going to win the 500 till Bobby Hillens wrecked in front of us.
Oh yeah, that's right. I remember that.
We didn't get the car full of gas on the stop, so it put us out of sync. But we were half a lap on Dale Earnhardt. That thing would go.
Right.
Took my Daytona 500 ring.
Yeah. Were you with let's see, Whitcomb? Were you with Derrike Cope when he won Daytona 500?
No, it's afterwards.
Afterwards, okay.
And only thing that they closed down Team 3. Those guys got in financial trouble, and they hired every one of us. And we went over there right in mid-season or Daytona, I can't remember now, but went over there because they just wanted the whole team.
Okay, yeah. So if there was ever a change that you could have made in your career, and this is a deep question.
That's deep already.
Because, I mean, there's things I could go back and look and say, yeah. But, I mean, everything kind of always works out for the right reason and at the right time. But if there was ever a change that you made that you wouldn't have made, or one that you would like to have made instead, is there any in there?
I'll tell you a change that people might think I'm crazy, but Felix talked to me about being the crew chief when I think the Pembertons left.
Okay.
Before Barry came.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. We talked about it, and he said, now's a good opportunity, and I don't regret it one bit. I never aspired to be a crew chief because of what it did on the road. My kids and wife meant more to me than that. So I'm glad I never did that. You can make a living and things like that. It's not about being popular or anything, but you could still be as much part of the team if you're not a crew chief. If you can still work strategy with them. It was different then. Me and Barry did a lot of strategy together. I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Well, that's a good answer too. If you want to think about it anymore, and
I think it's the opposite of what you might think. So I don't regret getting off the road and things like that, or not becoming a crew chief, because I know it's a gruel, and it's a lifestyle that you just have to plan on living in a bus and going. And at that time, it wasn't as convenient as it is now. There was no, we did a lot of driving and things like that.
So that leads me to whenever I first interviewed. Really, what I did was I went over there with Terry Wendell, and I met Barry Dodson in one of the back rooms over down off of Orr Road in Charlotte. And I was wanting to get a job in NASCAR. This would have been in '94. It probably
That's when I got off the road, '94.
Okay, so that was right. It was probably December of '94, right after Trey and Tia had been killed in the car accident. So I met Barry then, and I gave him my condolences, of course. And that was a tough time.
Yeah, it was a really hard time. It was if anything I could change, I'd go back and change that.
Yeah, I'm sure.
I mean, that was tough. And Felix was so good to us and NASCAR. Everybody, you really knew what love was about when you go through things like that. And I didn't know how we were going to make it to the next day. I didn't know how the sun was going to come up, because here's Barry alone. Kids were actually living in Darlington, and it was terrible, you
Right.
know. But you persevere and you go through. We won Dover with Kyle.
right.
Last race Kyle ever won.
Yep.
Was in a car we all prepared together, and my tailpipe split all to pieces
Yeah, well,
on the car, but we still won the race.
that happened back then anyway.
Yeah, and but I commend you. You've always carried yourself and done quality work and things like that. That's why you last as long as you want to last in the business, because you did quality work. You did. You never, you know, you're an honest guy. That means a ton in this business, just being a good character and having a good character of yourself, and you've always been that way.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because if you're not that way, you don't typically last. But there have been some that did.
Or
but
you
not.
have a label on you, and you know, it doesn't.
That's for sure. Yeah. Well, and I was going to mention this tonight too, that whenever I first met you, it's always been that way. The same with Barry. You know, my first day when I did get hired on there, he looked at me and said, "We need to change your shirt," because I had on a Tracy Lawrence shirt, it had a race car on it, you know, which obviously wasn't our shirt, but I was really wanting one of these shirts.
Yeah.
It's like super bad. So then they went and got me, I don't know, 10 or however many of them. And then one time at Charlotte, I had just started going on the road in 95. And this was actually after y'all had won at Dover.
That's when I got off the road. I don't know if we ever traveled.
Yeah, there was a big mix up after that.
Yeah.
And so I started going, and then I had like flicked the air hose, and Brad hit it or whatever. There was a slower pit stop. So then I saw Brad telling Barry about me, so I went over to him, and then Barry was very nice about it. Always was very pleasant and nice to me. And the last time I saw him was at the Taco Bell down in Mooresville. He was headed out to Winston, I guess, to go see his cousin, nephew, no, his.
Yeah, our nephew played for Wake Forest.
Yep, and he was
Basketball.
Yeah, he just came up to me. He's like, "It's very nice to see you. Very, very nice to see you." You know.
Yeah, what are you going to get on a pit stop when you know you're not going to get anywhere out of control? So you know, just be cool, slow down. Everybody learned that from the Petties.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing how racing evolved out of Petty Enterprise, and where all the people worked there went out different. That's why everybody started running the same.
Yeah.
You know, Petty's and the Wood brothers had the brothers. There was no turnover there. And then what happened with Junior Johnson, that developed NASCAR. But you're not going to get anywhere going crazy. Just say, hey, next time do it this way. You work on it, and you know. But we never practiced pits back then.
Oh, okay.
You know, you only practiced before the Rockingham pit crew race.
Right, yeah.
That day. And other than that, you didn't practice pit stops.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, there was a day when you guys would shine, though.
Yeah. We won that with Kale in the Valvoline car, that 27 Valvoline car.
Oh, okay.
You know, but we had one heck of a pit crew with me and Jimmy Maycar and Barry.
I bet.
And Todd carrying tires, you know, on the Kodiak car. We all won All-Pro 5 years in a row, every one of us.
And if we have any new listeners out there, NASCAR fans, those were the days when you guys worked on the car at the shop. Yeah. You worked on the car in the bays and practice, and you went over the wall and did everything.
And you drove half the time. You know, I would ride in a truck, you know, with Red Dog or something.
Sure.
We'd ride in the truck. You get there however you can get there, and then sometimes your wife would go to the exotic places, Phoenix, Riverside, and Daytona. You know, you take your wife and things like that. But people don't know how much we had to drive.
Yeah,
Exactly.
There were no private jets then.
Yeah, and speaking of Red Dog, I meant to say it's his birthday today.
Is it? Happy birthday, Red Dog.
And he told me to tell you hello.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And so did Eddie Yunt. He said to tell you and Phil hello.
Yeah.
Nice.
And so I wanted to make sure that I put those out there. And Sheriff Campbell, he said, I told him he was going to be on here. Yeah. And he said, John is a cool dude. So, yeah. And but also
just keep me out of jail.
That's right. So and with that being said, I wanted to mention whenever I first met you, I remember going back there and talking to you. We had just moved from Charlotte up to Mooresville, and I was looking for a church basically for my family. My kids were still young, so you introduced me to First Baptist Church in Mooresville. So then that's when we started going to church together, and that was about 95 thereabouts. And went there, and my kids were raised in that church.
A lot of Wednesday night suppers and things like that.
That's right. So it was always a good time with Kelly and Hunter and you and what's your other daughter's name?
Ashton.
Okay. She was young.
That's when I got off the road. That's when I think Kelly had went to a wedding by herself, you know, and you know, I just sensed something different, and I was like, ain't no race car worth losing this, you know, and I still built cars. I still got to go to work and build race cars, you know, and I could go to races when I wanted to, but I didn't. I just said, I'm not going to change tires anymore.
And those days at Sabco, that was like the best job ever, probably, I would say. And so
it was good.
Yeah. I got off the road whenever Tyler started playing baseball, and I wanted to coach him.
Yep. It's worth it, wasn't it?
It was for sure. Yep.
So I got a question from the beer man.
Okay.
The old Sabco days, maybe. Tell us about circuit breakers.
Oh man,
Oh.
circuit breakers. So I hadn't heard that word in a long time. So I had an idea to put. I'm an entrepreneur. I got a picture framing shop, and
We
whatever.
got Jason Shoemaker in here too.
Hey.
Hey, Jason. See, thanks for coming by.
It's a good man right there. He always comes down and helps us out. Stocks for Tots in NASCAR Tech.
That's right.
There you go.
There you go. See, buddy.
So circuit breakers, I had the idea of, that's when everybody had an answer machine. So I had an idea of putting Rusty Wallace on your answer machine.
Oh.
So I hired a girl to help me write all the messages. So you could buy two tapes from my company. Me and Dr. Jay Pylan went in together and started this company called Omni Sports Promotions. So we made answer machine tapes, and you could get Rusty Wallace, and I think his message was, "Hey, this is Rusty Wallace. Don't be bothering us right now. We're all in the hot tub. Leave a message, and we'll get back to you." And you could put that on your answer machine tape. So I had Ned Jarrett and Benny Parsons,
Wow.
and, everybody, Jeff Bodine, and I gave them, I think, a $1 a tape I sold or so. I had agreements with everybody, and basically I learned a ton. So I never have done anything I invested in that I don't think I learned from it. You can say you lost money, but you got education out of it.
Oh, yeah.
So I sold it all to Bill Simpson, bought every bit of it from me, the tapes and all. And I still got John Dodson Incorporated today. Still got the corporation. I bought it out, Jay Piling out, and still have my corporation. I built homes for 10 years on the side.
That's something. And somebody who handles Bill Simpson's estate is today looking through these boxes of tapes going, what is this?
I got one box at home that's got one of each in it that I saved.
Wow.
That's it.
That's
That was a
classic.
venture.
That should be in the Hall of Fame.
Well,
I might take them over there.
it's not like on the Jumbo and Billy show whenever they would play Rusty Wallace and just like beat, 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 everything. And then
No, we
Ward
can't have
Burton.
that.
And,
John Boy's a good friend. I hadn't talked to him in years, but he really hung out with our race team back then and all that. And I've been over on the show back then and things like that.
Sure.
So I went to the Andy Griffith reunion with him and Billy back in the day.
Oh, really? Wow.
The first one they ever had, and Otis and all them were there. And
Wow.
Ernest T. Bass and the Darlings, but they were good friends. We had a lot of fun.
yeah, I'll bet.
But racing was so much more fun back then.
You have to bring them with you next time.
We've talked about Sandwich Construction Company.
Man, I framed all those pictures in there.
Did
I
you really?
I did all their picture
Wow.
framing. All our company did
Those
that.
were originals, yeah. A lot of all uniforms and sheet metal and stuff.
Is that building still there?
It's-
Sandwich?
I think it's still there, but I don't know if it's a
yeah.
restaurant. I don't know.
Okay.
no.
It's been so long since I've been in there.
We had a lot of meals and a lot of parties in there.
Oh, absolutely.
I remember
That was-
when they were shooting Days of Thunder, and Tom Cruise went and ate over there.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. We've had a lot of good times in that building. Sam and Chris.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, Politis. I remember the first time Kyle did his bike ride across America, he come back there. And so we were hanging out there with him, me and a bunch of us.
And every
beer
time we
men.
go to lunch over here, we'd be eating lunch. Darryl Waltrip's team's over here eating lunch.
Yep.
All those same guys,
That
same
was-
guys that bit me.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
All right, so I had a question. Hunter says, "Howdy, Dad."
Hey, Hunter.
Yep.
Now, which Hunter? I guess that's my daughter, Hunter.
Shepherd.
Her
Well-
husband, Hunter and Shepherd. Okay, they're at home this week. My daughter's husband is named Hunter. So Hunter and Hunter.
Well, that's what I was getting
As he's
confused
watching
about.
Papa
So
see the little
it may be, maybe it's your son-in-law, but either way, you're saying hey to both of them.
Yeah.
Hunter and Hunter, and hey to Hunter and Hunter. I know it's
Yep.
been a while since you saw me.
We had the wedding. We just put up one sign, Hunter's wedding.
Yes. Spelled the same way, I guess so.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
many ways you can spell Hunter, right?
But we can be together and we can say Hunter and they know which one we're talking about for some reason.
Sure.
We
That's
call
cool.
her. We tend to call her a Huntress now a little bit.
Yeah.
And then
There you go.
Ashton's my
Yeah,
other
that's cool.
daughter's Ashton.
Yeah, Ashton. She was younger. She was, well, younger. All right, yeah, let's do this.
This is every week we do a little question in honor of the beer man, Scott Trevison, who wants you to tell your
Hello,
best
Scott.
Sterling Marlin story. PG, You know.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know, because I never worked for Sterling. I just hang out. I don't know that I have a best Sterling Marlin
Change
story.
it. I guess maybe a Kyle story then.
Yeah, real good Kyle story. Some funny. There's too
Well,
many
the
of those.
good story with Kyle was my favorite one is my first race, and him giving me his helmet and goggles to wear and things like that, you know. And I guess I could tell you some stories. I want to write a book. I got a guy that's really wanting me to do this book, and we want to do short stories, and every one would be my time with Richard Petty and tell you the things that happened between me and Richard Petty and my time, and me and Cale Yarborough. But we used to play music, the guitars. Me and my friend David Petty, best friend, grew up. He would just go with us on the road, you know, never touched the car much or whatever. But we would play music in the motel at night, or in a rain delay, we'd be up in the truck with the guitars. But nobody loved that more than Cale Yarborough. And he would say, boys, we're going to play music tonight, you know. And at Talladega, I remember he took us out to eat fish. I'm buying. He never bought anybody anything, but boy, he wanted music. We filled the bathtub up with Bud Light, and it was a Saturday night before the race, and we played to 2 o'clock in the morning, and Cale sat right there and sing to the top of it, just sing.
Wow.
Loved it, old bluegrass and old songs, and you know, that's the memorable stuff. And then we went to his dealership, his Honda dealership, had a fish fry right out in the bays, and he wanted us to bring our music. He sat there all night with us, and that's the kind of stuff I'd like to, the stories that I like to tell.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think the next day at Talladega, my daddy was down there, and Daddy was a gambler. He bet somebody $2,000 that Cale would lead the first lap. We started fourth.
Oh.
He told Cale, Cale said, "I'll get it for you."
No. Yeah.
Started fourth, led the first lap. We finished fourth, and Cale got out of the car and told my daddy, he said, "Where's my? Come on, let me have my cut." You know.
Yes, that's very cool.
That's true stuff.
My that was my.
Henry
Oh,
Benfield,
yeah.
I can't tell those stories.
Yeah. Oh, Henry
He drove our
Benfield.
truck. He drove our
Yeah.
truck at with Ricky Rudd when I was with Ricky Rudd, and we won the Brickyard in '97.
Okay.
Yep, Henry drove our truck.
Okay. I didn't
Richard
realize.
Broom was a crew chief. I was there. I was a shop foreman there a couple of years,
Okay.
off the road, one of those jobs. So.
And you also, all right. So your next job in racing from the 27 car and.
Yep. So with Rusty Wallace won the championship. Then we started Team 3, and then that went about a year with Mickey Gibbs. Lost sponsorship. So then we went over to Whitcomb and Derrike Cope for about a year. Then I went over to the Melliella car with Kyle right before Daytona. Remember, they had the big wreck in Daytona. The van wrecked. They tried to.
Oh, yeah.
They jumped that railroad track, and a bunch of them guys got hurt.
Yes.
That's how I got my job. They needed somebody to change tires and fabricate. So that's Robin hired me after we shut the team down 2 weeks before Daytona. They shut down the team.
Wow.
So that's when I went over to Melliella to Felix, and Felix told him to call me. And so I worked there, I think 4 years with Kyle, changed tires there. And after that, I went over to, we moved to Mooresville in the new Sabco building.
That's right. Yeah.
And then I went to Ricky Rudd's for a couple years. And then from there, I went over to MB2 Motorsports. And I started falling into that 2 years here, 2 years there. Yeah. And I knew right then that I said, this is not the way I want to be.
Right. Yep.
At that time, though, I was building houses on the side. I went to Mitchell College here at night and got my builder's license, and I built houses for 10 years. Just subbed everything out like a side business, you know. Now I work there on the weekends and evenings, things like that. But, you know, if you want to get ahead in life, you got to work.
Yeah.
And so I went over to the MB2 car with Ernie Irvin. We sat on the pole at Indy, and I don't think we won any races at that time. And then we started Eel River racing with Barry and Jack Birmingham. Started
Forgot
Eel
all about
River.
that.
Well, we built the shop that Doug Yates' Roush Yates Technologies is in. Right?
Okay. Yeah. The machine shop.
Manufacturing Solutions, Roush
Yeah.
Yates. That was our race shop. And then when we closed that team down, we built that building right out the street. They were building NASCAR Tech. And they called me because we were closing down.
Yeah.
And we had about 5 lunches with Dennis Hendricks, eventually was a campus president there. And I flew out to Phoenix, and I took a die-cast car because they had nothing. They had 5 subjects on a sheet of paper.
Yeah.
We want to build a NASCAR Institute. So I went out there, and I took a die-cast car, and I sat down with curriculum writers, and I used that car to describe how to write curriculum in NASCAR racing. And it was on a sheet of paper. They said, "John, can you do this, make this happen?" I said, "I can." And I've been there 19 years and put thousands of guys in the race team. Doug Yates has hired 120 graduates from me, a third of his workforce.
Yeah.
So we've made an impact in the sport and changed a lot of lives.
I know that we've gotten some really good ones over there over the years. You know, we usually bring them in, start and tear down, and then they kind of just work their way up from there.
Well, I've been there 19 years now. I have students who graduated, we put in racing, that call me or my team and want to hire more.
Yeah.
You know, we got the sheriff over at Penske. He's one of the IndyCar car chiefs over there. You know, so it's pretty cool to watch them and be friends. And now they have children and homes here. You know, that's pretty neat.
Yep.
It's changed, and then we're lifetime friends, even though, you know, I was a lot older than them, helped them, but it's great to see. We walk through the garage area, and no matter who wins, we got guys on every single team. We win every week. Go to Victory Lane in every series on every team for NASCAR Tech graduates.
So when people want to know how to get into NASCAR, you just tell them that's the stepping stone pretty much. I mean, if you want to learn the basics of, like you said, you took that car to Phoenix, you know, that was the start of it all. I mean, you're not working on a car that you'd see at a dealership. You're working on that specific car. Everything's completely different. So
we wrote all that curriculum, you know.
NASCAR Tech.
I used the English wheel.
Yeah.
And so we have that down there. So when you come to NASCAR Tech, you're going to learn all the basics. We've got engine dynos. Doug Yates put FR9 engines in there, so you're going to build FR9 Ford racing engines. Yeah. You know, so it's just like a race team. We just don't load up and go to the racetrack every week.
Yeah, it's a specialized school. You work on exactly what you do as a team.
And that's an elective. That's an elective. You come to be an automotive technician. Everybody can be that when they leave there. You know, you got to have a B plan. If you don't make it as a Harvick's tire changer or engine builder, have a B plan, and you may not like racing once you get into it. So you can be a technician, but the ones that really come and aspire to go racing, it typically happens for them. It's really rewarding. I get as much fun out of as it was winning a race when I see a young man and his family react to that working at Hendrick Motorsports or working for Roush Yates Engines. It's pretty cool. Yeah. We had 5 graduates on front row, got Indy 500 rings. I went over and took a picture with McDowell, and the graduates held the flag up and everything. And the day after the race, or Tuesday, I think I went over there, and it was pretty cool. So. Yeah,
that is cool. I saw that picture. That was great.
Yeah.
And I must say the FR9 engine was one of the most temperamental, different engines. You know, I built Chevrolets, and I went to the D3, C3, and all that stuff with Ford. And then the FR9 was just it's a good engine. And we won a lot of races with that engine, but it was definitely different. So,
yep, and it was created right there in y'all's shop. That was pretty cool.
Yep, that's right. It went through many different little evolutions of the engine, and it come out winning.
I have
races.
The fiberglass casting when you first the resin casting.
Yes,
we got that over there at the school, Doug.
Yep.
You know, you can hold it up with 2 fingers. We pass that block around. Students look at its original casting.
Yeah, it's like, and we had this $1 million machine over there that'll just make it right there, forms it.
Yep.
And it's all lightweight stuff. Yeah.
So an engine like that, how fast could a Jersey Cape yacht go with that engine? That's our sponsor, John. Jersey Cape Yachts.
Cool sponsor.
Right. Yeah, it is.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah, there's
custom made.
Yeah, so I have my sweatshirt sitting over there, but Phil's got his shirt on tonight.
That's right. I got my shirt on.
So we
and a shout out to Marlon Yoder, a guest of ours a few weeks ago. The 5-car won at Vegas yesterday, and Marlon was celebrating last night with friends with his Jersey Cape yacht shirt on.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, how about that?
Yep.
Yeah, so if you need, if you want to, Jersey Cape yacht, they have 31 to 66 feet custom yachts.
Yep, the Little Devil up to the Big Diablo.
There you go, 2143 River Road in Lower Bank, New Jersey, and you can email Janine at jerseycapeyachts.com or give them a call at 609-965-8650, and they have apparel as well, as I mentioned.
That's cool.
Yep.
You should do a show live from one of those yachts. I want to be on part of that show.
They're all over, yeah.
All right, Janine, and then
Daytona.
Yep. So you can definitely do that.
We can work on
we
that.
We need to make that happen. Yes. Yes. Cool. Is Brad leaving? Is he? Okay. I was going to tell him he can come over here in just a few minutes if he wants to. If you want to text him or call him. So then you went to.
So then I went to MB2.
Yeah.
And then like I said, I worked there a few years and just built fenders. You know, built cars. Matter of fact, I did the interiors. I always did the pedals and everything, did all the interior. And Ernie asked me to do the interior on his Bush car that he went to Michigan in. And it's the last car he raced because he hit the wall again in Michigan.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll never forget, I was over in his shop at night doing it as a side job, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I put some padding on the B-post.
Yeah.
And he said, get that off of there. That's in my way. I said, Ernie, we need to put some padding there. And he tore that padding off.
Yeah.
I said, I don't want it there. Went up there and wrecked that car and hit his head again.
Oh, man.
You know, and the doctor said you just can't take any more blows like that or whatever. But I helped build that car.
Yeah.
You know, but that was he was a heck of a driver, and you know, one of the nicest guys you're ever going to meet is Ernie Irvin.
Yep, that's right. Yeah,
just salt of the earth, and he gave you 100% in that race car. That's for sure.
Yeah, that's
I worked
for sure.
for some great drivers.
And then now his son Jared's driving, and he's doing good. He was running. It was somewhere down near. It was in Florida. They were racing.
Yeah, they moved down to
weekend.
Florida. I think they got a horse equestrian place down there. So
yeah.
I see them from time to time. They'll come to Stocks for Tots at NASCAR Tech too. So it's cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So but one of these days I'll get Ernie in here, or I'll have to go meet him somewhere. Maybe I'll come to Stocks and Tots.
We'll do it. Why don't you plan on, hopefully this year, we're going to have a live Stocks for Tots.
Yeah.
And we would love to have you broadcast live an hour, at least tape a show, because it's like shooting fish in a bucket. You can just get every 5 minutes with every driver you want and get them up here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
And you met Brad Borders, right? Brad, do you want to come over here? Yeah. Brad Borders with Purple Heart Homes. And so he's got some...
Just so you all know, Purple Heart Homes is helping disabled veterans, and with their providing them homes. They're driven to the belief that no veteran should be left behind. Purple Heart Homes, together with the community, is committed to ensuing quality of life solutions for service-connected, disabled, or aging veterans from all areas.
Yeah. So I introduced you guys together, and I'm surprised you hadn't met each other because Brad's doing...
We're connected in
We're
so
practically
many ways.
kin now.
I mean, I've heard my wife's dad's been racing for 30 years and knows John, and I got a good Ned Jarrett story.
Awesome.
So I grew up watching racing. My neighbor had a TR3, a 62 TR3, and we used to sit in the basement. Charlie Boggs, I don't know if you remember Charlie, passed away last year.
Remember that name.
He had a TR3, and we would sit in his basement with my best friend Joe, and we would sit behind the wheel and we would listen to the races on the radio, and we would pretend that we were Buddy Baker. I mean, that was who we wanted to be, you know. So, but I was going to ask my wife Tammy to marry me. This was in 1989. 1990. We were at the Coca-Cola 600.
We won it that
That's
year.
right. And I had never been to a race, and I had gotten invited to go into the pits. And I saw Ned Jarrett walking across. That was when he was doing broadcasting. And I lost my mind. And I acted like I had met him and known him all my life, you know, because, you know, you see somebody on TV, you think you know them, but they don't know you, right? And I was like, Ned Jarrett, right? And my wife, you know, she knew all of y'all. She knew everybody in racing, grew up with you know, Patty Jarrett and Jimmy, and knew all.
My wife and Patty worked together.
Yeah, they all knew each other, and she was so embarrassed. And that was how I got my introduction to the pits at Charlotte, by making a fool out of myself. So it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's not uncommon.
It's not. It happens all
You
the
see it a
time.
lot.
I got used to it over the years. You know, so, good to be here tonight. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah,
So,
thanks for coming out. You know, at Charlotte Motor Speedway, we always had the memorial races, the Coca-Cola 600, World 600, and all that. And they always had the best pre-race shows. Humpy Wheeler put on a heck of a show.
It'd be helicopters and dudes fast roping out of Blackhawks and
School buses, jumping cars.
Yes,
all kinds
that
of
too,
cool
yes.
stuff. So,
You name it.
Yeah.
but,
Do you ever go out down there for the military honors?
I did. Yeah, we went. I didn't. I joined the military. I was an old man when I joined the Army. I was 37 when I joined. I joined after 9/11, and so I was building houses here in town and in ministry. I was a pastor of a local church in youth ministry, and 9/11 happened, and so I joined the Army, and you know, during time of war and right after that, and you know, you end up going places. So I got to go some places, and so I've been in the last 18 years of my life has been doing that. I'm still in the reserves now. 4 years ago, I came off active duty and went to work for Purple Heart Homes, and have been there. That's my full-time deal now, and it's a great job. We get to help folks who have served every single day, and you know, we're right out of Statesville, and it's our hometown, and so it's cool how the racing and veteran community are so connected. You know that. Every year, you know, there's always tickets being given away to veterans and to active duty service members, and so it's been really cool listening to you tell stories today.
I love how they honor the veterans with their names on the cars, and I cry every year watching on TV, stand there and can't help it.
One of my
veterans.
dearest friends, I served. I was a chaplain in the Army, and lost a really good friend of mine in 2011. But he was over in Afghanistan, and his name Chief Warrant Officer Mike Duskin, and his name was on a car a couple years ago. It meant a lot to all of us, right on the hood, and meant a lot to all of us.
It's one thing you're going to see in NASCAR. They're going to honor veterans, and they're going to say a prayer.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I don't ever see that going away, no matter what.
Either.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't either. That's a good thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and Purple Heart Homes is a unique organization. It's founded by two Statesville guys. They got blown up over in Iraq in 2004, John Galena and Dale Beatty. And they were just young kids, you know, they're in their early 20s, and changed Dale's life. He lost both of his legs. And when he got back home, the house he lived in was, unsuitable for somebody that's missing both limbs. And so, this community, this cool little town that we live in, that we all grew up in, and came around him and his family, and a lot of veterans organizations and building supply places and churches got together and built him an adaptive house. And so Dale could have just kind of mailed it in at that point and lived the rest of his life, but he made up in his mind that he wanted to do something for others, because the guys that came out and worked on his home were Vietnam veterans. And so kind of the hallmark of what Purple Heart Homes does is that we help older veterans that kind of got left behind and years back, and maybe their time in service wasn't something they were proud of or remembered well, and but we want to honor their service. And Dale used to say, doesn't matter when you served or where you served, it just matters that you served.
Yeah, that's good. Yep. And we lost Dale Beatty a couple years ago now. I guess
3 years ago, February 12th.
Yeah, about that.
Passed away. So
yeah. Well, thanks so much for stopping in, and give us your contact information if there's a veteran out there that needs your help.
Yeah, sure. You can just go to our website. It's phhusa.org. So that's a super easy way to get in touch with us. We got all the contact buttons that you can get to on there.
I know you just punch that in the computer and then it pops up, but it's like Purple Heart Homes USA.
If you just in a Google browser, if you just type in Purple Heart Homes, it'll be the very first thing that comes up. And so, but we've got some events going on coming up. We've got an event called 7 Days for the Troops that our friend Scott is helping us with. Where he's going to spend 7 days in a 16 or 20-foot tower.
That's right.
Spending the night all day long, every day, calling attention to the needs of disabled veterans. And so we're really excited about him being here. That's going to happen in May. So.
Right here in downtown Statesville, North Carolina.
Yeah, right here.
May 9th
it's going to be
to the
spectacle.
15th. That's 168 hours. Scott's going to be up on top of that tower.
Yeah.
And I'm going to throw it out there that's 168 hours, 20 feet in the air without touching the ground. And 100% of the money raised will go to help Purple Heart Homes and what they're doing to help veterans. And, I mean, if I may say this, if you're out there listening and you think, hey, I want to get involved with this event, we need sponsorships for this event. We need I made a comment earlier today that would love to have some of the race teams involved in this, but this is a great way to do something cool to show our veterans that we appreciate what they do, and another great way to raise funds to help rebuild a house and make it handicap accessible for a disabled veteran.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that and everything that you do.
I'd love to get our students involved. Over 20% of our students are military veterans.
That's right.
Coming to school.
I'm familiar with one of them, Aaron Cascade. I don't remember Aaron.
They're fantastic. They're leaders when they get to school. They're leaders when they get their internships or part-time jobs, and no problem getting them a job. And we love our veterans.
Yeah.
So awesome. we'll be announcing this down at NASCAR Tech.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, but we can put y'all in. We'll put y'all on a volunteer day if you want to. Build a ramp for another veteran.
We'd love it.
Contact us, brother. Oh, awesome.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. Thank
Thanks,
you, Brad.
David.
Yes, sir.
They also will be down doing the same thing in Tampa, Florida, November 11th through the 19th.
Yes.
Veterans Day.
Yep,
Veterans Day.
Veteran Day. So Scott will be there too. 168 hours in Tampa.
That's great.
All right. So, and John, so if people want to follow you, you do have a Twitter now,
I do.
and you got to look and see what it
You'll
is.
have to tell them what it is.
It's John.
I think
Yeah.
it's J. Dodson NASCAR Tech or J. Dodson NASCAR. I don't know.
Yeah.
Not
Here, I
real
can
big
look.
on
I
it.
can look for
I only
it.
do it because the school tells me to do it, and then
Yeah.
but I like the old stuff. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah, the history. There's a lot of people doing
Yeah.
NASCAR throwback stuff now, like the NASCAR history, NASCAR whatever. And so yeah, there it is, JD NASCAR Tech.
Yep.
It's John Dodson.
At JD NASCAR Tech.
Yep. So there you go. And if you don't see it, go to DHammiam, and I retweeted his tweet from earlier, and then I tagged him in mine. But it's JD NASCAR Tech at
Well-
JD NASCAR Tech.
My followers are going up, David.
There you go. Should.
We did have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Had one question for you, John. What do you think of the dirt race at Bristol?
I hope I get my sweet passes. I've put in for passes there. I think I got mixed emotions about it. I think it's kind of unfair to the drivers, a little bit unfair, because they didn't build their career around running a dirt race.
Yeah.
But you can't keep doing the same thing and getting the same results. That's why we got these. I love that we're adding more road courses.
Right, sure.
I don't remember ever seeing in a long time as good a race as we saw Sunday with this package on the car now.
Yep.
So I think that you're going to see some dirt racers feel like they've made clowns of themselves.
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see Kyle Larson and Briscoe jump up front and run big. But it's going to be fun. It's not but 250 laps.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to see it. I just
Yeah.
can't wait to see it.
I'm excited by it, but I do agree with Chris Buscher's comment. Is that means we lose one good Bristol concrete race too?
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
true.
Bristol is priceless to me. So.
Yeah. That's
And then
true.
we have another question by Jody Brooks. She wants to know if you have a good Ricky Rudd story.
Ricky Rudd's fantastic. We used to work out together, and we kind of got to be friends at the Nautilus there at Lake Norman, and we would work out together. And, we knew each other from a racetrack, but he is one strong individual. And if one thing you never noticed, that him and Earnhardt got into it several times, but Ricky does not back down.
The Rooster.
From anything.
Yeah.
The Rooster.
He is the Rooster. But my good Ricky Rudd story is I saw him with my own eyes. He's what, 5'6"?
5'8".
Yeah, he was short. I'm
yeah.
6'1". He's,
Yeah.
I saw him bench press 320 pounds. My own eyes. So
Wow.
that's a good story. But Ricky he hired me, always very kind to me, treated me very respectful to people, very smart businessman. Should have won more races, should have won a championship, but he's one heck of a driver. He could tell you, I got a 5th place car today, I got a 7th place car today. He knew. And my favorite stories went in the Brickyard with him, and how he come in. I wasn't on the road, but he come in the next day, and we were standing there talking. He said, "You believe this?" And I left there before the end of the season. He called me later that year. He said, "I got your Brickyard ring. I want to give it to you."
Oh, that's
So that tells you what the character of Ricky Rudd.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, that's very cool. So Hunter says, tell John Shepard is watching his papa on TV. How about that?
I got 2 grandsons
Yeah,
now,
thank you, buddy.
and it
Good to see
is
you, bro.
there's nothing. I had 2 daughters. We raised 2 daughters,
Yes.
and little girls, you can give them a coloring book, and they're good for an hour. But these little boys, they make Papa tired. They call me Papa John.
Sure.
And they are something else. Little grandsons.
Yeah.
It's a new time.
Very nice. And what is your brother Brad doing nowadays?
Brad's at GMS right here in Statesville, so he puts on bodies up there with Scott Beam and Mike Beam. And they've always been deer hunting buddies, And so Brad's up there. He lives for 2 things: deer and turkey.
There's a lot of fossils
very
up there,
nice.
David. You like fossil hunting. There's a lot of fossils there.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Brad is he is an expert hunter. He will pass
Yeah.
3 10-pointers to get that waiting for the 16-point. You know, that's how good he is at hunting. You know,
Patience.
yes.
How about that? And
Very patient.
I wanted to read this by Scott. He says, Scott Trevison down at, the beer man, of course.
Yeah, Scott had the game that time. Remember the board
He
game
did.
he invented?
Yeah.
Lost all his money in?
Yep, I've got the, I know.
Saying that so
Banks.
Scott
High
can
Banks,
hear
that's
that.
right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, Felix Sabatas ended up, I think he bought the game. And
Bought my circuit breaker. Somebody had to buy me out.
That's right. He says, please tell John he is invited for a ride on the C-Tunes next time he's in Daytona.
Tell him that's awesome. We'll broadcast live from there.
We went out about, I think, 7 miles or so out off the coast.
Wow.
Yeah.
Scott's a great guy. Always been a
yeah.
great guy, just a good friend.
Yeah, he is. He's a genuine.
Positive thinking man right there.
Sure is.
Yep.
One genuine guy. So Jake McVie says Christopher Bell will also be tough on dirt.
Yep, he will be.
Steve Knight.
Yeah.
He says, Steve Knight, remember Steve? John Dodson is also a huge Andy Griffin historian.
But, I like history of any kind.
Same
I like
here.
racing history, but any kind of history. And I grew up just 30 miles from Mount Airy. So I know a lot about Andy Griffith and the Rerun Watchers Club and all that. And then, as I said, John Boy and Billy took me to the first reunion.
Yeah.
So I can quote you. I'm like John Boy. When the Andy Griffith show comes on TV and
Yeah.
we still watch it,
Yeah.
I like to tell you what episode is within 5 seconds.
Oh,
That's knowing your history,
yeah. That's cool, man.
But I love history of any kind, anything history, war, anything like that.
Yeah, I'm the same
Interesting.
way. Right. Yeah. Same thing. And
Because it matters.
it does. It matters. You don't want to forget history, or it will repeat itself.
It can. It
Yes.
certainly can.
You have to bring John Boy up here sometime.
I hadn't seen him in years.
Yeah.
But
Have a
we had some
reunion.
fun. Yeah, I'd love to. I could, anybody on that would be fun in here to bring in here and have a little. I'd like to get Felix up here and do it.
Oh, man. Yeah.
When I see
would that
Felix
be?
now, I saw him at the garage at Charlotte. He hugged me like a son.
Oh, yeah.
And hadn't seen him. He got really sick there a couple of years ago.
Right. Yeah.
But when he saw me, and I didn't know he felt that way.
Yeah.
I knew we were buddies, and he just hugged me like a son, and I felt the same way.
Yeah.
So he's a good guy. He'd
It's
be
like-
fun to have on this show.
He sure would.
We
Yeah.
all want to hug the past and hang on to that. you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Barry had a bad falling out when Barry left.
I
It was really
remember-
bad, really bad.
I remember we had the big meeting, and we're sitting up there
Upstairs.
in the meeting room upstairs, and I looked down, and I could see Barry pushing the toolbox, and there was
Felix
stuff going
was
on,
not happy.
and he was not happy.
He put me and Brad in a pretty uncomfortable
Yeah,
situation.
I felt bad for y'all. I was like, man, that would be tough to sit there and listen to this right now.
That's one thing I would have done is, I thought about, it was emotional at that time, and I thought about just walking out the door,
Right.
but I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah, because
I just took the high road,
right, yeah.
and he was just emotional. You got to forgive Felix for that. He was just
Yeah.
man quits on you middle of the season for no reason. And
Yeah.
he had his. I left it between him and Barry.
And he was pointing out other people in the room that the rumor they were leaving.
Yeah.
And they did. He's
I'll
like,
tell you.
Go ahead.
I'll tell you. I remember one thing that Felix did. You remember when we, I think it was before that, when he called a team meeting at a motel over in Charlotte. Everybody get over here, and it may have been. I know the Pembertons were gone then, and Barry was a crew chief, but he called a team meeting, and we had to go over to the Hilton over there. I think near UNCC.
Yeah.
He rented a room. He got in there and he talked for an hour or two about positive, about winning, about everything that he is. The next weekend we won Dover with Kyle.
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah.
That weekend.
Yeah.
Is that the weekend that he forgot to tell Kyle to hydrate?
Oh,
Yeah,
well.
that is Kyle about passed out.
Yeah, when I was in Victory Lane taking
Yeah.
pictures, and he was knocked
Well,
right
the
down.
tailpipes busted, and I did all the tailpipes, and you had to anneal them and get gas in them, and they just disintegrated. They broke into a bunch of pieces. So he was breathing fumes and barely beat Bobby Labonte. I think he was coming pretty quick. They had that big wreck at the start of the race.
So that must be why whenever I missed the side of the car and I jacked up the door skin, And he gets out of the car and he's laying against the pit wall, and I go over to apologize because I was thinking he got sandblasted at Darlington the whole race. It might have been the fumes from the exhaust.
That's probably. I left a lot of holes in the exhaust. The
'Cause
exhaust
he-
made the car faster.
That's right. I remember seeing little chunks of it, just like it just falling
Built a lot
apart.
of tailpipes. If I could change anything, I wouldn't build any. I wouldn't have built that many.
Yeah,
You know, you get stuck in something. That's the bad part. If you do something good, it's going to be your job.
yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and I was like, I don't want to build them more tailpipes. I want to have some fenders or something.
That's right. And Dawn says, y'all took down the Christmas tree. Yes, we did finally, or Billy did last Saturday. It's gone. And Sissy Odell, thank you so much for watching. We got some good listeners here and some people in town that come in and watch us with our live music and here on WAME and also on our morning show.
I need to bring my buddy David Petty up here and play. We'll play live music one night.
Yeah, for sure,
That would
man.
be fun.
Wednesday nights we have our Piedmont Folkways live here at 7:30 every Wednesday night. So you can check us out on Facebook and also PiedmontFolkways.org. And that was we have some great music here, and it's the kind of music that you really enjoy too.
I like string music, acoustic string music.
I thought you were in music. I thought you played a guitar or something.
Remember,
at
I
one
sung
time.
the national anthem at Rockingham a few times.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sung in the Red Dog's
He's
wedding.
on it. He's singing.
I sung at
the
Red
cash.
Dog's wedding.
Yes.
I sung a national anthem at Rockingham 3 times,
How about that?
I think. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I'm not a good instrumentalist, but I'm
Yeah.
a better singer than I am.
I'm surprised I'm not getting a text from Red Dog. He texted me earlier, and I told him happy birthday, but he's probably like
Well, that
passed out
wedding,
by now.
that wedding didn't make it, so I don't like to claim it. that marriage. And I sung in Trent's
Yes.
wedding.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure did.
Don't let John
Sing in your
your
wedding. Trent's made it, though.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
So I'm talking about Trent Owens. He's a crew chief. And Travis Owens, they're my nephews.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yep.
Oh, how about that? Very cool. So is that the one that, all right, the one that played basketball, how is he doing?
He's doing good. Michael Drum, and he played at Wake Forest. And the reason we're such big Wake fans is Barry's son, Trey, pitched a no-hitter as a junior in high school,
He's a
South
left-hander.
Carolina, and he wanted to go to Wake Forest and play baseball.
Yeah.
So they have fully endowed scholarships at Wake Forest, T and Trey Dodson scholarships that students play on. And then Michael then wanted to go to Winston. We all grew up at 5 miles from Wake Forest.
Yeah.
So they have scholarships there, and that's why we do that. Michael, I think he went to Georgia Tech Law School and worked for Marriott down in Atlanta. Well, an alumni hired him, and he's done quite well.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, good. So,
What else? Which direction we want to go?
All right. So if
This
anybody
has
else,
been a lot of fun, though.
well, good. I'm glad you came out, man. It's been a great time. We'll have to.
There's
do
so
it
much I
again.
didn't get to say.
Well,
Oh, keep going. Go ahead.
I mean, we can stay as long as you want, but you're also welcome to come back anytime.
Yeah.
And what I'd like to do is, whenever I have someone come back the second time, maybe even bring someone. Let's say somebody that you worked with for a long time, or we can do a phone in.
Felix.
I'd love to
come
bring
back and bring
Felix.
Felix.
You can get him in here,
Yeah.
John.
Or you can
I'd
bring.
just go pick him up and bring him.
if you can get Kyle up here, all right.
Be
Because
fun to
that's
get
a,
Kyle.
Oh, boy.
that's a tough one, but he could bring his guitar and y'all could sing together. We'll even
Yeah.
fire up the stage and we'll make it happen. Y'all will
Yeah.
be on the radio, you'll be on TV here, whatever.
He was on Songs of the Mountain not long ago, Kyle. So he,
Hee-haw 2021.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be
so-
good. Kyle would be fun.
Yeah, he would be a
He's
lot of
fun.
fun.
It doesn't matter what you're doing with
Oh,
Kyle.
he's
You can make slaw and it's fun with Kyle.
Oh yeah.
He's probably been kind of low angle,
I'll tell you
laying
what.
low.
I'll tell you about Kyle. You can put Kyle in the middle of a room, and he's going to go to the person that needs something the most. He's going to find this person that nobody's talking to, or this person that might
Yeah.
feel down or something. And then Kyle Petty's that's going
Center
to be his,
stage,
that's
yeah.
going to be his best friend.
You're right, John.
That's Kyle Petty.
You're
right
right.
there. All the time. I've seen him stand up for people his whole life. And that's pretty cool.
Yep. It's very cool.
He's a good guy.
I went and saw him play out in Salisbury when he performed. He was playing his guitar up on the stage at Catawba College.
He can play.
It's been about 4 years ago. What? No, it was Catawba. It was in Salisbury.
Yeah.
That college there, it's college I'm talking about.
Yeah,
What's it
Catawba.
called? Yeah. That's funny.
Catawba College. I went over and saw Michael play basketball. He scored 37 one night. They played
Oh,
Catawba.
how about that? That's very cool. Yeah. So let's see. Any further comments, and then we'll just go ahead and start wrapping up. Jim Dooley up in Virginia says, "Great show, Hamm, love it. All of my friends love the old stories, and that's the thing.
Well, I got a
the
lot
history.
of old stories I can tell you. I'll come back and we'll talk about how we built race cars and how you had 3 templates and what you could do. And, you know, I'll tell you a quick one, just so I give you a taste of something we can do. We were at Wilkesboro and with Rusty in '88, and my wife Kelly was up in the suite working for RJ Reynolds. She would work the suite sometimes while we'd be on the race team. So the caution come out, and I think we come in 8th, and the caution was 13 laps to go. And Jimmy Maycar, I go over to Jimmy Maycar, and here we're coming into pits, and we're 8th. There's no pit wall at Wilkesboro. And I said, I'm going to tighten 4 lug nuts. He said, I'm going to tighten 3. I said, all right, let's do 3.
Yeah.
So 4-tire stop, we went out on the racetrack with 12 lug nuts tight on the whole car.
Wow.
Beat everybody out of the pits.
Yeah.
Time they dropped the green, it was 8 laps to go when we won the race. All you had to leave was 8 laps. Just pray they didn't come loose in 8 laps.
Yeah.
So we go up to
Yes.
Victory Lane when they lifted you up.
Yeah.
And we were down on our knees screwing lug nuts on that car, putting 2 more lug nuts on each side. And but we won the race.
Yeah.
You know?
That's cool.
Yeah, statute of limitations.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, you know
Can't
what we
take it
did?
back.
We outsmarted them and we won the race, and that was not anything they, you know, they looked at it, but they didn't have enough guys to watch you
Right. Yeah.
back then.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you take? There's a lot of stories like that.
Yeah, look what they've learned in 30 years because of you.
Yeah, we've cut templates that shouldn't have been cut and built cars that way and
Yeah.
extended cars. And
That's what the
Amen.
fans don't realize is over the years they've grabbed the highly educated and innovational guys like you and Gary Nelson and pulled you into the flock to
Yeah.
tell it how do we catch these guys, right?
we had a helmet. Benny Parsons' helmet weighed 100 pounds. We took all the interior out and poured it full of lead. And when you go through inspection, you could leave the helmet on the console.
There you go.
So we went through inspection 100 pounds heavy. And then when we put the car on the line, we would say, oh, we forgot the radio helmet because you didn't practice with the radio then. So we'd take the helmet out of the car and you'd have to walk back to the truck really cool with a 100-pound helmet, looking like it didn't. And then we'd put the helmet on and we run 100 pounds light, you know?
Yeah, that's awesome. I'd not heard that one. That's
True
great.
story. True story. I think the lady was at the shop and said, "Oh, there's Benny's helmet." She slid it, boom, and it busted into 1,000 pieces. So that's a true story. You can't make it up.
Tell him that was a strength in his neck because of all the driving. You know,
Yeah, we had Coke cans we poured full of lead, and you'd put them in the windows and seal up the vents, and they'd be full of lead. You know,
Yeah.
It looked like a Coke can that you just put in and put tape over, and
Sure.
they'd weigh 20 pounds.
Yeah.
All that mattered.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah. So we'll have to have a show where you tell those stories and I'll tell some
Okay.
from engine stuff because I know nothing from Roush Yates engines. We
No,
never.
we can't. I don't talk about what I
Well,
see
we
in
never.
other shops.
No, we never did anything there anyway. But from back in the Savco days and some other places that I worked,
Yeah.
that we did do stuff like that.
Let's do that. Let's do one where we can tell stories. We used to do 20 things to the car at Daytona, obvious things that you would inspector would check, so we could get by the 3 things that mattered.
Yeah.
You know.
That's all right.
Yeah, Kenny
That's good.
Thompson knows them stories.
I'm
too.
sure he does. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you didn't do it, you might go home. It put food on your table, and it's what you did. You were able to because there was no rule. That's why we have so many rules now.
Right.
But
yes.
if there was no rule, then it was a green light.
Well, that leads to the question. I wonder how many rules you're partly responsible for. You know what I'm saying?
I don't know, 7.8.
Sure.
Yes. Richard Bostic says, great job tonight. Enjoy listening to John. Good stories.
Old Bostic, good old guy.
I believe he's out in Vegas. Well, he'd be back.
We were the
Somebody
first
right
ones
now.
to ever put leg braces in a car for Rusty. When Neil Bonnet wrecked and his right leg basically wrapped around the gear shift at Charlotte. Remember how bad he broke his leg? Almost lost his leg.
Yeah.
And then we looked at that and we're like, let's put some. So we put leg braces in there. We blew a tire at Charlotte and Rusty hit the wall in practice. We were testing over there, and the seat tore completely loose. I come back and I braced the seat. The seat just had 4 bolts. I braced it to the back of the roll bar. NASCAR made a rule. After they saw it, they're like, "Man, look at this," you know. And that's the thing. That's little things you did. And then everybody had to start getting leg braces. But it's because somebody got hurt every time.
Yeah.
Something. So that's how it all evolved, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And you made little changes.
Yeah. Dickie Down says, terrific stories. Thanks, John. Totally enjoyed each one.
Thank you. Tell him thank you. Or
And,
I'll tell him thank you.
Shall we mention, yeah, that's right. That's camera's on right now. Matter of fact, about Dickie Dennis being
You've probably heard of Dickie Dennis.
Dickie Dennis. I was trying to place him. I've heard
Is
the
that
name.
yeah, you would have heard it at a very high level meeting of like, who was that guy that climbed up the fence at Richmond? That's Dickie Dennis.
That's him.
Awesome. I was there, man.
Yeah, he was too.
I was thinking it was the guy that stole the pace car in Talladega. But
No, you knew it was some kind of NASCAR
we
crime.
laughed for 3 days after that guy. We was laughing in pit road when that guy stole the pace car.
And
but
you
Dickie
can see
Dennis
that.
was the first.
Yeah, you can see it on YouTube. That guy in Talladega taking that. Them
He got the
sharing.
snot
Oh
beat out
boy,
of
they
him
sure
after-
did. Didn't they?
Peeled him out of that race
Not
car.
in Alabama. You don't do that.
That's, no, sir. That's a tough place down there. I never did like going to Talladega.
Yeah. All right. All right. So it's time to spin the wheel to see who our prize winner is tonight. So go on to my website, DHammiam.com, and you can put your email address there and your mailing address, and I'll send you a prize.
How
Or
about
I'll
if I
you a
send the
decal.
prize? Can I give the prize tonight?
The prize winner for tonight, John is taking care of the prize. So we're going to spin the wheel and see who wins. And
They're
then-
going to win a NASCAR Technical Institute T-shirt and hat.
Very nice. All right.
It's too bad because the other prize tonight was a free car. No.
A yacht.
Green is Sissy Odell.
All right.
Awesome.
Sissy Odell, our listener here in Statesville.
You're going to text me her address, and I'm going to ship her prize.
Perfect.
And I
That
might
sounds
even
good.
put something else in there.
There you
There
go.
you go. Yeah.
Very nice. So
We-
Sissy Odell's our winner.
We do have Scott Burns wanted to say a few words before we head out tonight.
Oh, yeah,
in
absolutely.
honor of the Purple Heart Homes. There's Scott.
I actually want, as a fan, when I found out about coming this morning, I had no clue that I was going to have the opportunity to sit here and listen to these stories. And just being a guy that watches the races in Tupelo, Mississippi, and being able to be here and hear these stories and hear the little behind the scenes, I mean, it's going to make watching NASCAR even that much more fun. And I mean, I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to hear the story, and didn't realize I was going to be with greatness tonight.
Well, thank you so much for coming out, man.
You're always your greatness with David.
And John and Phil, yes, man.
That's it.
We have been around NASCAR so long, and to combine, I guess we would be like
100 years.
Yeah, close to it.
Yeah, I'm 40. I've started as a teenager, and I'm 42 or 3 years now. Since 17, and I'll be 60 this year.
I'm 33 years in it.
About that. I was 25 in it, but I could say I spent my whole life in it. And if you go back to 1990 till 2008, it would have been 20 or 30 years.
That's 99
But-
years total, actually.
But yeah, whenever growing up in Charlotte and being a NASCAR fan, a Kel Yarborough fan back in the 70s, David Pearson, all that.
He was an animal.
Yeah, for sure.
Kale, he could drive it.
Yeah, I always liked him. He's a tough dude, man. And listening to the stories of
He is
him,
tough.
between him and Bobby Allison, I hear the best stories about them and how tough
You ought
they
to
were.
fly in his plane with him. He'd fly through anything.
Yeah.
Anything. And Betty Jo, his wife, me and her flew in the 2 back seats. He had a pilot, but Kel would just put it on automatic pilot and fly right through a thunderstorm.
Wow,
Just terrified me.
wild, man.
And Betty Jo would slap him in the head and say, she called him Daddy.
Oh yeah.
Daddy, get us out of this stuff. Daddy, slap him on the head, and he'd dip skull the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
Tough. That
yes.
man's tough.
He's a tough one there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Thanks again, Scott and Phil.
And
As always.
one last thing, Scott wanted me to remind everybody, you can go on Facebook and you can follow the 7 Days for the Troops event. I just posted a link on the
Nice.
here, 7 Days for the Troops event to follow.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, very
All the
good.
veterans.
I
Thank
think
you.
it's going to be a great event.
We'll be looking up at you, Scott.
All right. All right. And thanks everybody for watching, and thanks to John Dodson, of course,
I appreciate it.
for coming up here. And we look forward to the next time.
I hope I can come back. That's all I want to do is come back.
Yep.
Let's do it again.
And maybe I'll come down there and do a show wherever you tell me to.
Well, you're coming to Stocks for Tots, so we'll do get a student audience in there, and it's a good time. Everybody needs to come to Stocks for Tots, and this year I hope we can have it again.
Yeah.
That's
So,
a worthy event. Tell them a little bit about that in case people don't know.
Yeah, so I'm on the board with Don Miller at the North Carolina Auto Racing Hall of Fame, and we had the first Stocks for Tots at the Armory, excuse me, in Mooresville in '89. And I had a table set up selling circuit breakers.
Oh,
I
okay.
had some machine tapes.
Somebody's got a photo of that out
So
there.
Don and I've been helping
This one?
with it ever since, and we finally started doing Stocks for Tots at NASCAR Technical Institute because, the race teams kind of scattered in Mooresville, and we're a neutral site. So the driver said, sure, I'll come to NASCAR Tech because it's not a Toyota, Ford camp. It's what. So we're neutral. Everybody will come. We have the parking, the heated facility, 146,000 square feet. Dale Jr.'s done it a few times, you know. So you bring in unwrapped toys worth $20 at least, brand new toys. Put them under the tree. It gets you in, and you get autographs from all these great drivers. And all the old timers, we have the legends that sign autographs first. Then the others come in and sign autographs, and we have a lot of repeaters. They pull wagons and get their cars die-cast signed and all that. And then we have live broadcast there. MRN's done it every year, and we can set you up right beside them, David.
Oh yeah, that was love that.
It's fun, and it's a worthy cause. We've raised over $1 million.
Wow!
And it's for the abused children here in Iredell County. That may not have a Christmas, and I'm really proud to be a part of that, just a small part of it. And everything we raise, 100% goes to, and everybody that works at the Hall of Fame is a volunteer. So we take no money there. Everything is volunteer and donated.
Yeah, Rachel Rodman is a volunteer down there.
Yep, we love our volunteers. She's great.
And I got one request though: set MRN up beside me.
There you go. We'll put you on the stage.
Yeah, there you go.
First one out of town.
Yes.
That's a good joke.
Yes.
No, it would be great. It would be great to have you down there.
Yeah.
So just count on it.
I'll count on it. I'm looking forward to it. Yes.
Right.
Not that I invited myself or anything.
You didn't. I invited you.
Okay, good. Yes.
A while ago, I did.
That's right. You dropped a hint, and then I thought, I might just hint him back, and then he'll go with it.
Yeah, it's usually on a Tuesday night, so we'll,
Yeah, I can make it happen.
fits right in.
Yeah, it does.
Perfect.
No problem.
And the fans won't find a greater, richer source of many drivers. All them drivers that show up for that, because everybody does in racing for that cause.
Eli Gold did it for a long time with us, and he said, "Are you crazy? I wouldn't miss this friend." He says, "It's like shooting fish in a barrel."
Oh,
you
yeah.
got over here's Ned Jarrett. You can get on the radio.
Tables
over
full.
here's Ryan Newman.
Yep.
And they're just constantly they run the radio show the whole time the event's going on.
Yep.
So you hear a little chatter in the background, and it's really good, you know. But what's really rewarding is when we load those toys up and we bring them up here to the Stop Child Abuse Now, and give those toys and see those families come in.
We had an event in here. It's been about a year ago, or actually it was the beginning of the year, February maybe. Stop Child Abuse Now. We had a concert for them to raise money for it. The Battle of the Bands thing, or Master of the Mic, or anyway. Yeah. Oh, very good. All right. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and don't forget to go to my website DHammiam.com. Give me your email address and your mailing address. I'll send you one of these decals if you just send me your mailing address, if you like them. Right there, yes.
We'll start making these shirts.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of shirts, I do have shirts available, so I'm going to put those in here, or in the description. Nice. And they are Racing Roots with Hamm right here. I'm going to have some that have that right on the left side, and then big on the back. And then I'm going to have it big on the back, and then something in the top middle. I haven't quite decided yet. So, And
NASCAR Tech logo.
I was going to say maybe something like that. That would be very cool, yes.
Yeah.
And then I could have
we're
Jersey
open for
Cape.
Sponsorships.
Yeah. And then I could do Jersey Cape Yachts down the sleeve, like on Phil's shirt right there. Yeah. All right. So good night, everybody. And we'll see you next Monday. We're going to have Natalie Decker. If y'all don't know her, she is the truck series, whatever is the Camping World Truck Series driver, young, up and coming. She's probably like let's say, I don't know if she's a goddaughter to Danica Patrick or whatever, but her Aunt Sue is Danica Patrick. It's Danica Sue Patrick, if you didn't know. She's named after her aunt. So there you go.
I did not know that.
Yep. So,
one final thing is, let's remember Scott Burns will be in downtown Statesville from the 9th to the 15th of May. And I think, David, we ought to plan to do a show from his site on the 10th, which is a Monday, May 10th. So
yeah, let's do that. Let's plan on it. That sounds great, man. I'm all about helping out. Let's make it happen. Or we'll make it happen, yes. All right, y'all. Good night.
if you don't know our host, David Hamm, he's a 25-year NASCAR veteran, engine builder, and jackman.
If you don't know me, my name is Phil Cavalli. I was a 30-year NASCAR photographer. 30-year NASCAR photographer.
Oh, God. And I'm building engines with Mattel.
Yes, Mattel.
Yeah, for Mattel.
Lego blocks.
Yeah.
Live every Monday evening, we have a new guest.
From the racing world with their stories, their paths,
their
racing roots.
sponsored by Jersey Cape Yachts. Check them out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and their YouTube channel. Also on jerseycapeyachts.com. Check out Chad Hyder as he pilots the Canadian E-Motorsports Network Racing Roots with Hamm Ford. 7:30 every Tuesday evening on Facebook. Check out my website, DHammiam.com. Be sure to hit that subscribe, turn on the bell notification so you'll be notified every time we go live.